Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Hey Newberry Fishing. Sitting in the truck today, got a little bit of time to make a video, and I think it's a little bit interesting, I guess, that this year I seem to be making tons of videos around cheating because there's a little bit more spacing in between a lot of my videos this year. Over the last couple months because I've been working on my house, doing a lot of other things, so I haven't had time to make a whole bunch of them. But every time I go to make a video, the next biggest thing that's going on is another cheating scandal. So what we're going to actually talk about today is the new scandal now that is this Cayuga tournament, and kind of give my perspective on it, a couple different angles to really think about in comparison to other tournaments. But just here lately, I think that because there's so much more awareness of the cheating that happens in a lot of these tournaments and the gray area that people exploit, that we're seeing a lot more people bring it to light. And so it's public knowledge now, almost immediately after the tournament when people talk about it, that there was people cheating in it. So in this tournament, we're talking about bedding smallmouth. And bedding smallmouth, if you're not aware, they bite super easy. If you've ever fished for a largemouth on the bed and then you go fish for smallmouth, it's a completely different world. They bite so easy. You can catch one, throw it back, it'll bite again. So they have rules surrounding this. So in the professional tournament world where you can catch and release, so like they did on Lake Fork in the Bassmasters, you could only catch the same fish or each fish once a day. So say I have 10 fish marked on the bed, I can't go just cycle through the biggest ones and run out my bag. I have to catch that one, but another person can go and catch the fish that day. So different than if you were to put them in the live well in a standard tournament and nobody could catch them. So what happened up on Cayuga is that they had the same rule that you could only catch one fish a day per person. So we're kind of going to hit on that, and then we're going to go into the other portion of the gray area and the more so cheating of it. So these guys, if these fish were on bed for multiple days, they absolutely could go out the next day that they were out on the water in the tournament and catch the same bedding fish, which is completely illegal. And that portion of it, I don't really see as much wrong with it. It's kind of an opportunity thing, and that's almost impossible to enforce. If you were to say you could only catch each fish per tournament, I feel like that's a really tough one, because and why I feel more so just I don't know what else you could do about that is because you look at tournaments where you put them in the live well. Those fish are caught multiple times in a tournament, sometimes by the same people. If you tracked them, I guarantee that you would see that actually happen, because in big tournaments there is a second and third day pattern where you just go fish outside the launch where they dump all the fish out. People do it all the time. If you've never been in an open, fish the second day around the launch and see how many guys have dumped their pattern, and their second or third day pattern is literally two fish outside the launch, because there are a lot of fish there that have been released over the last couple days. Happened last year, I think, at pretty much every tournament. I don't know of one that there weren't people fishing the retreads. It happens all the time. Grand Lake is another big one that it happens on. Grand Lake, there is a row of docks as you're heading out of the marina that on the second and third day, there will always be somebody that catches a good bag fishing those docks, because they go out there, they dump the fish suck right over the docks, and those will be loaded the second and third days of tournaments, always. So that is why going out and catching some of the same bedding fish a couple days after, it's like, well, they didn't bring them back. So, I mean, truthfully, that's better for the fish, is to put them back out there and then possibly catch them again later days. And in any catch and release tournament, even if they're not on the bed and you throw them back and they go back to a brush pile, those guys are catching the same fish in every other tournament. So I don't necessarily see a big problem with a guy going catching a good bag, and then if the fish just happen to still be on the bed, then there's really not gonna, then I don't know how you enforce them going back out and catching them. So anyway, on to the next thing of the gray area slash, yeah, I guess gray area slash just straight up cheating that we're starting to hear about now. So the weights up there were absolutely nuts. And I will honestly say I was suspicious to start out with, because I know of other tournaments where the smallmouth were on the bed that the MLF guys on the BPT tour were kicking out some like suspicious weights, where you were seeing repeated weights in the five or of the like five biggest ones, even when they were doing every fish counts. I looked at some of the weights last year or the year before or something like that, where there was some guys bed fishing, and you could see a lot of the fish were repeating. But I don't know if the rule was in effect then, but here's how they were exploiting it. So, and this is in the Cayuga tournament. Don't know anything about the previous tournaments. I would say that if it happened in Cayuga, it's happened before. They were casting where the smallmouth were on bed, and because it is so easy to catch them off bed, as long as you hit their bed with a Ned rig or something, they'll bite it. You don't have to be staring at them. If you know that there's a bed by this boulder up there, which that's another thing that makes it really easy to do this, is that smallmouth bed right around big boulders. So you can look on live scope, see the boulder, make 5 casts. As long as you run it across the bed one time, you'll catch him. Then they would go up, and here's where I think it's weird that the rules officials in the boats with them didn't pick up on it, or if they did, they didn't say anything, and it wasn't until it became public knowledge, because we know that the MLF side, and probably both, are bad about not saying anything unless it becomes public knowledge. Like they're okay with the cheating until everybody knows about it, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, we need to crack down on the cheating. So then they would go up and sight fish for the smallmouth. So technically they were only catching that fish sight fishing once in a day, and that's what the way the rule is stated, is that while sight fishing you can only catch each fish once in a day. So technically they were not sight fishing it, and then they would go up and sight fish the same fish. So they catch the same fish twice. All of a sudden you've got, if it's a 5.5 pounder, now you have 11 pounds for 2 fish to start out your day, and it was off of one bedder. And you do that twice, all of a sudden you're over 20 pounds for 4 fish. And then say you only need, so what I'm saying is you need 5 5-pounders to have, or sorry, 3 5-pounders on bed to have a 25-pound bag. So that is where we're getting into how these weights were just so insane. They didn't necessarily everybody have all these fish, and what's coming about is that guys in the tournament are saying there wasn't really that many big fish on bed in this tournament, but everybody's so good they found a lot of the same ones, so the entire field is cycling through these very few huge fish on bed. And again, not the entire field, I don't want to say that and loop everybody in. There were guys in the tournament that were absolutely not cheating, but you have these guys all cycling through these same fish, and then 20 people catch a 30-pound bag, but they were catching 10 fish or 5 fish shared between 15 people. So that is the new cheating scandal that it sounds like is being investigated for multiple people. I've heard that there was off of, I was actually just watching Luke Duncan's podcast when I was in the truck, and I guess there was at least like 4 of the top 10 that are being investigated for pulling this. So pretty crazy stuff. I don't know. I think that I guess my side of it is I think that the rules officials should have caught on to this and immediately called whoever they needed to call and be like, hey, I just watched an angler that I'm in the boat with cast up, catch a smallmouth, and then walk up or boat up and sight fish the same one. Are we going to do something about it? And I don't know if that happened. I personally think that it's a very good possibility that did happen. And they didn't say anything until all of a sudden the other guys in the tournament were like, hey, this happened, and they said it publicly, and now all of a sudden MLF has to do something about it. Maybe that's not what happened, but I think that's what happened. But I think that this is kind of some of the rules problems that we're going to have to deal with the catch release format that for some reason they haven't picked up on. And then I also want to hit on that live scope, again, like I've said before, can be used for sight fishing, and I think is slowly going to end up have to be considered sight fishing. If you can use live scope, like I just said, to cast at a bedding smallmouth, and then when you go up to it, that is actually considered, when your eyes are on it, sight fishing, but you're watching a live view under the water, that should be kind of looped in the same. I don't know how they could word the rule or what they can do. Maybe that's why there isn't rules around it, because it is so hard to prove that that fish was on a bed, or call it sight fishing. I don't know. But then the other portion of the cheating, just straight up cheating, and it's something that we've dealt with guys doing it on these tours and big tournaments and stuff for forever, and should be called on the spot. And it's annoying to hear that it's taken so long when things are on video to call out, are these guys that are sight fishing and then not showing the hook to the rules official that it's in the mouth before they take it out. It's been caught on video of guys doing it in tournaments, and guys have been, DQ'd and stuff for this and called out on social media and all that they're pretty much hooking them outside the mouth. They reach outside the boat, pop the hook out, and all is good and well, and nobody says anything about it, when it should be called out immediately by the rules official in the boat. So I think that there's a little bit of responsibility that needs to be passed to that these rules officials that are in the boats, when this happens, they need to not weigh that fish. Go, I didn't see the hook. Why is it after the tournament that apparently the rules official in the boat went ahead and weighed the fish, and then they have to go back and investigate it? There's a guy standing right there that supposedly is supposed to be doing this, and instead the guy pops the hook out of its mouth. It was obviously caught sight fishing, and he weighs it, and that fish should never be weighed. So maybe they need to train these guys a little better also, that are taking care of the rules in person there, and letting this happen on live TV, and then it makes the entire sport look bad. I don't know. That's my opinions on the whole thing. It's just, and kind of a rundown of what happened, since it seems like it's slowly being leaked out like everything else that is tried, that they just try to hide it. That's the cut and dry. What happens is these organizations, instead of calling out cheating, they try to hide it. And then it looks 10 times worse when it comes out after the tournament's over and they've handed out checks and everything. But anyway, stay tuned. I'll have some more videos, hopefully not so many cheating ones, and just some regular bass fishing stuff. But there's a lot of that going on here lately. Thanks for watching.